The series opens up with a soldier gaining back his consciousness in the woods next to a dog. He seems unsure of his identity and how he got there. He then checks out his wallet, finds a card, and learns that his name is Brian Hunt. Right then, the dog, Rufus, suddenly becomes agitated and barks, looking in a particular direction. Though Brian tries to stop it, Rufus runs back up a hill. Without much thought, Brian also follows into a foggy area. Amidst barks and growls, a horrific sight greets the soldier, Rufus, skinned and beheaded, hanging from a tree. Seeing this, Brian gets shocked and terrified, prompting him to scream and flee the scene. In another part of town called Bridgeville, a woman named Eve Copeland faces a tough situation. She gets suspended from her job as a high school teacher for giving proper sex education. When she gets home, she talks to her husband, Kevin, who comforts her and suggests she take a break. Later, Kevin, Eve, and their teenage daughter, Alex, go to a local football game. After the game, there's an awkward moment when Eve tells Alex she can't go to a high school party to celebrate her school team's victory. However, at night, when Eve falls asleep, Kevin secretly lets Alex go to the party with her best friend Adrian. We are then introduced to Adrian, who wears makeup and doesn't like football. He also has a tough relationship with his father and identifies as pansexual, attracted to people regardless of their gender. Soon, the duo arrives at the party, but Adrian doesn't fit in with his peers, facing discrimination and mocking. Even Alex abandons her no drinking policy for the sake of Jay, her football player crush, and follows him to a room upstairs. Meanwhile, Brian, the soldier from the woods, arrives in Bridgeville. He goes to the police station to warn the officers about a monster in the mist, but nobody believes him. In desperation, Brian tries to grab a police officer's gun for safety, leading to him being locked up in jail for the night. The following morning, Kevin and Eve find that Alex isn't in her room, but on the swing in the yard. The couple approaches her, and tearfully, the daughter confesses to getting drunk at the party and feeling uncertain about being raped. She also mentions that, according to Adrian, Jay is the one who misused her during her drunken state. Hearing this, Eve gets angry at her for not obeying her decision, but Kevin supports Alex, stating that he is the one who permitted her to attend the party. Next, Kevin takes Alex to the police station and reports the incident to an officer. In response, Officer Pudnick visits the school and requests Jay to cooperate with them for an investigation against him for sexual harassment. After a while, Kevin again goes to the police station to get an update on his report. At the same time, Adrian is also brought in for questioning, and Pudnick is busy with him. Officer Connor, Aka Jay's father, suggests Kevin speak with him, but the latter refuses and decides to wait for Pudnick to be free. While they are talking, they hear a strange noise outside the station and rush to take a look at it. To their surprise, they witness a high tide of mist covering the whole town and approaching them. In the next scene, a couple witnesses a flock of birds flying away from the forest and a swarm of toads emerging from the pond and devouring an insect from the wife's hand. Because of this odd incident, the Copeland's neighbor, Natalie Raven, and her husband, Benedict, decide to conduct research at the Bridgeville Library if a similar event happened in the past. On the other hand, Eve and Alex are leaving town for the latter's safety and make a stop at a mall for Eve's prescription. In the parking lot, Alex makes a disrespectful comment about her mother's past, leading to a harsh slap from Eve. While Eve leaves for the pharmacy, Alex calls Kevin, expressing her reluctance to go with her mother. However, their conversation is cut off when the thick mist outside covers Kevin. The mist hampers their vision, and Connor suggests returning to the police station till everything gets over. During this time, Officer Pudnick mentions staying in the mist to take selfies for his wife. While everyone is away, he is suddenly attacked by a swarm of cockroaches, resulting in the loss of a part of his face. Connor and Kevin hear his screams and reach out for help. But when Connor sees his colleague's face, he gets in a car and suggests to Kevin that they leave the place as soon as possible. However, the latter refuses to leave alone and rushes inside the police station to bring Adrian. Afraid to stay outside alone, Connor drives away, leaving everyone else trapped in the police station. Meanwhile, having finished their research, the Ravens decide to bike home, thinking they can still make it despite the mist. Unfortunately, their optimism is shattered when Natalie's husband is fatally shot by a confused guy who suddenly appears from the mist and is unable to distinguish between reality and illusion. Overwhelmed with guilt, the assailant also takes his own life. Traumatized to see her husband dead in front of her eyes, Natalie seeks solace in a nearby church, where a priest comforts her. Back at the station, Kevin asks Adrian to leave immediately, but hears someone calling for help. He and Adrian follow the voice only to find two prisoners, Brian and Mia, begging to let them out. Initially, Kevin hesitates, but when Mia mentions that more numbers will make it easier, to face the danger, he agrees to free them. The scene then shifts to the mall, where Eve is getting Alex's medical supplies. Outside, Alex notices the car being covered by the mist and gets out of it to find her way. Unfortunately, she loses her way and calls out her mother's name. To her good luck, Eve arrives there in time and takes her inside the mall. Right then, Ms. Carmody, the parent of one of Eve's students, Eric, tries to exit the mall and Alex stops her. She warns them about something mysterious lingering in the mist, but the woman does not listen to her and leaves with Eric. Moments later, the crowd in the mall hears Ms. Carmody's screams. Suddenly, her body, without a jaw, gets thrown at the glass door and pulled back by a strange force. Seeing this, everyone gets terrified and Alex hugs her mother. Adding to her shock, Alex also notices Jay in the mall, staring at her. Next, Connor is driving carefully through the mist when a huge moose suddenly appears and wrecks his car. Now, his car won't start and he has no option other than to walk to the nearby church and seek refuge. Over at the mall, Eve shares with Kyle, the security officer, and Gus Bradley, the mall manager, what she saw when Ms. Carmody ran out. Gus tries to get everyone to stay safe by locking the doors and mentioning that no one will be allowed to leave until they contact the security services. Alex, not wanting to be near Jay, agrees to follow a woman and help her lock the doors of the mall so that the mist won't get inside. On the other hand, when Connor enters the church, Father Romanov tells him about Natalie's husband. Connor is not too surprised and decides to look into it after the mist is gone. At the police station, Mia finds some drugs in the evidence room and, being a drug addict, tries to keep it to herself. However, Brian catches her and she lies, saying she's just looking for car keys. Afterward, Mia admits that she's scared and asks Brian for help, promising not to use the drugs. Following this, everyone gets in one of the cars placed outside and Kevin urges Mia to drive towards the mall, where his family is. While locking the doors, Alex worries about being near the windows. On their way back, they discover a mist-filled hallway with a dead body and blood. Upon their return, Gus inquires about what they saw and checks the map to realize that it is the administrative hallway. He also remembers that the radio they need for initiating satellite communication is in the same risky area. Hearing this, everyone rushes to the hallway but hardly sees anything inside. At this moment, Alex suggests using a camera drone present in the electronics store to assess the situation. Fortunately, Jay knows how to fly the drone and he agrees to help. Soon, he can be seen operating a drone to explore the hallway, finding the security office door closed. Checking other doors, the group sees the mist coming in through an open window. Jay rolls the drone around only to find a dead body on the floor. While driving, Mia encounters a man with a gun demanding their car. Secretly, Brian tries to pull out his gun, but Mia runs the man over and drives away at great speed. Sadly, the car flips, but they somehow manage to escape unharmed and decide to run towards the church. On the way, Mia spots an elderly woman, her mother, but knows that she isn't real. Fortunately, Brian pulls Mia away from the woman to the church. Soon, the group enters the church with Connor getting upset that Kevin let his prisoners go. The latter then immediately handcuffs Mia and explains that he fled during an attack. Romanov wants answers about what's outside, but no one knows. Meanwhile, at the mall, the manager decides to perform a lucky draw to select the person entering the hall and retrieving the radio. Everyone agrees to it, and unfortunately, Eve draws the short stick for the lottery, causing Alex to panic. However, a guy, Clint, offers to go with her since he knows about the radio. Before leaving, Eve assures Alex that she'll be back, expressing love for her. Afterward, Clint and Eve rush to the security office, passing a blood-smeared door and a body on the floor. Clint finds the radio and manages to turn it on. He then switches on different channels and appeals for help, but sadly, gets no response. All of a sudden, Clint turns on a different channel and utters the name Arrowhead on the radio, wanting a report. Hearing this, Eve inquires about it, but he does not answer. They argue, and cleverly Eve tries to run away from there. However, Clint points a gun at her and threatens her to stay. In retaliation, Eve fights back, and in an attempt to defend herself, she shoots him. After the guy is dead, Eve takes his gun and returns to the mall in shock. Everyone is happy to see her back, but when they inquire about Clint, Eve replies that she lost him in the hallway and something killed him. She also informs others that the radio didn't work. Eve then hugs Alex and informs Gus about the strangers who were with Clint some time earlier. At the church, Mia's going through withdrawal, and Brian expresses concern. On the other hand, Adrian asks Kevin about plans for the night, and the latter suggests they stay there till the morning. Right then, Natalie brings holy wine from the church office and begins sharing memories of her husband. She encourages everyone to drink in his memory. At this moment, Brian reveals to Mia that he too saw the mist-induced old lady who called her baby doll. Later at night, people in the mall sleep in the lobby, and Eve secretly hides the gun as Alex sleeps beside her. After a while, Jay goes to the bathroom only to discover two dead bodies hanging from a pipe. The next morning, Kevin speaks to Adrian, assuring him that Alex and Eve are safe. He then suggests that they need to leave and continue their way to the mall to save them. Meanwhile, Jay helps the mall manager and the security to take out the dead bodies from the bathroom. To their shock, they discover tags on their neck and deduce that they are linked to the military. Following this, they take the bodies to the hall and decide to keep them in the freezer. While Gus mentions the tags in military, a man standing in the crowd tries to run away. But to his bad luck, before he can escape, the security catches him. He also has the tag but claims to be just the driver and has no idea about what is going on outside. Back at the church, Brian and Kevin show sympathy to Mia. Kevin then walks up to Connor and requests him to let him take Mia and Brian with him. To his bad luck, the officer refuses to comply, stating that they are convicts and for people's safety, he cannot let them roam around freely. Hearing this, Kevin gets enraged and comments on Connor's attitude and dominating character. In response, the latter handcuffs Mia and locks her and Brian in the basement of the church. Though Connor mentions that Mia killed someone, Brian releases her from the cuffs, emphasizing the need for trust. They talk, with Brian recapping how he found himself in the forest, leading to Mia breaking down. Kevin still wants to get Mia out and asks Adrian to keep an eye out for him. He then walks to the basement door and promises to help Mia and Brian, stating that he needs her to hotwire a car for escape. After a while Adrian is talking to the father, Connor calls him a liar and accuses the former of blaming his son for the rape incident. Right then, Kevin also arrives and calls Jay a rapist, and in response, Connor throws him into the basement with Mia and Brian. In the next scene, Alex decides they should move away from Jay to another room even though there doesn't seem to be a good reason. Surprisingly, Eve also agrees to her request and sends her to get some blankets from the store. To Alex's shock, Jay finds her in the store and comes closer, wanting to explain his side. Though afraid, Alex allows him to touch her, and the boy explains that he only took her upstairs that night so she could sleep off the drinks. At the church, Natalie tries to leave and a guy with a moth's tattoo on his back tries to stop her but fails. However, he follows her outside, into the mist, and out of nowhere, a moth flies into his ear. The guy then feels something inside his body, and soon a pair of wings sprout through his back disgustingly. Connor and others step out of the church and pull Natalie inside, while a bunch of moths fly out from the guy's mouth before he falls dead on the floor. The scene then shifts to the mall, where two owners of the game shop secretly take out the dead bodies of the soldiers from the freezer and put them out in the mist to see what happens to them. To their bad luck, nothing happens, but the remaining soldier notices them and launches an attack. Gus intervenes, yelling at them, and the group starts making rules to keep everyone's actions under control. However, a controversial rule emerges, stating that anyone endangering the group gets thrown out. Eve and Alex arrive at the discussion later, and the former refuses to follow any rules. She then gathers a couple of other people from the mall and proposes to form a separate group. Gus tries to stop them from doing so, stating that staying together will provide them more strength. Even Jameis walks up to Alex to convince her to stay together. Tensions rise when Eve pulls a gun on Jay and asks him to stay away from her daughter. With this, Gus allows Eve's group to leave, and they head to the storage room. In the next scene, we see Adrian experiencing baptism with the father of the church. He passionately performs the ritual, and in an attempt to hug the father, steals keys from his pocket. Afterward, Adrian opens the door of the basement and frees Kevin's group, showcasing his sneakiness and sincerity. When the group is about to leave the church, Connor tries to stop them, but before he can pull out his gun, Kevin lands a couple of punches on him and knocks him unconscious. In the last scene, Alex can be seen writing help notes on a piece of paper and plans to attach them with helium balloons to let others know they're in the mall. Everyone agrees to her plan and helps her complete it. The episode ends with each member of the group letting the balloon out in the mist and waiting for someone to see their message and arrive with help. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.